This is Vibe Science, a top 100 wellness podcast presented by the Radcast Network, breaking wellness barriers and making health truly personal. Here are your hosts, Ryan Alford and Chris Hansen.
Hello, and welcome to Vibe Science. I'm Ryan Alford, your co-host, joined by my friend and business partner, Chris Hansen, down in Miami. What's up, Chris?
What's up, Ryan? How you doing today, brother?
Hey, I'm good. You know, mind, body, spirit. It's been a crazy day, but, you know, we're keeping the vibes high, and that's why I'm pumped. We've got Dr. Rudy Eberwein. What's up, doctor?
Hello, what's going on? Glad to be here, guys.
Yes, we, look, you got to get the vibes high, and we all know that it takes... It's so funny, Doc. You said it before, you know, we got started on the episode, and Chris and I talk about time. Like, you can have the six pack, you can have the muscles, you can have the body and the look, but it's about damn time we realize it is a holistic, we can call it woo-woo, you can call it whatever you want. It's a complicated mechanism with which all of it comes together and your vibes get high. And I think that's what I really love, you know, what I've seen from what you're doing, what you've worked on with Chris, which we'll talk about, is the integration of all of those things. I mean, I think that's the biggest word, right? Is the integration.
Completely. And I was so excited to come on this podcast because when I looked at the description of you guys, what you guys do is exactly what I do. It is combining modern medicine with holistic wellness. And whichever way you want to call that, whether you call it biohacking, functional medicine, alternative medicine, complementary medicine, root cause medicine, or as you said, woo-woo medicine, all of this. I'm conventionally trained. So I'm an MD who did my convention training. I worked in hospitals. I've done the conventional way. And we don't want to turn that away because there's solid science with it. But what we want to do and what I've done is really gone into more the preventive side. How can I help somebody be the best version of themselves, self-actualize to the best version of themselves, whether it be physically, mentally, sexually, and even spiritually. We are complex human beings that are way more than just the physical body.
Yes, I think the key word there is complex. You know, it's just there's no simplifying the whole body, mind, soul. Complex beings that require a combination of things. I'd love to pick your brain, doctor, first to start, if you don't mind. You know, you having that MD background and sort of why do we live in this world where these worlds are so separated and seemingly both sides kind of point to the other, you know, the modern medicine, traditional health side pointing at alternative health as kind of being woo-woo or out in left field or whatever. And then you've got the alternative medicine and going, well, modern medicine is all pharmaceutical and all bad all the time. So we know that neither of those polar definitions are accurate though, but why is it seemingly that way? Do you have an explanation?
Yeah. No, great question. And, you know, part of life is always like this. It's never all the way black, all the way white. It's the gray area. It is the middle way, right? Even Buddha said that. It's not too much, not too little. It's finding the middle way between all of those different disciplines. So I'm a perfect example of this, where I'm a conventionally trained MD. I went to medical school at University of Miami. I did my residency and training, Jackson Hospital, traditional, conventional medicine. And there's a lot of science behind it that we can't put to the side. But my transition and my journey has been that I went outside of the box. I really looked at what else is there that we can complement my training in conventional medicine. Because remember, when I was in medical school, I barely got 6 hours of nutrition training. How can you be a healer and only have 6 hours of nutrition training? So I had to go and relearn a lot of the basics of human physiology and to be able to bring that back to my patients. What makes me very optimistic about the future is that there's a lot more that are finding my same journey. So when I go to conferences like the anti-aging conferences that are all around the US, 15, 20 years ago, when I used to go, there were maybe 100 providers, nurses, doctors, pharmacists. Now, the last one I went, there were more than 5,000 clinicians. So there's more traditional, conventionally trained physicians and clinicians who are going on to the other side and being able to join those two worlds.
Well, that's great to hear. I mean, you're a lot closer to it than us, so it's about time. And it's so interesting because I think about it, Doc, like, growing up, going to the doctor, especially let's just talk about adulthood, like after 21 or whatever, for Chris after 31. But the doc always goes, hey, like once you have a relationship with doc, hey, how you feel? How are you? And you'll say, I'm doing great, or I'm fine. Even if like mentally, maybe you're off, or your body, you don't have an ailment, like I don't have the flu. I'm not gaining weight necessarily, or like have some inflammation or obvious inflammation or something that's just a symptom, that's a true pain versus, like, how are you? Like, how's your head? No doctor in my life has ever, how's your headspace? Like, how are your thoughts? How's your, mental game? It's just a fascinating thought process because of how much we know and how much we talk about this show and how much you're doing, that how mind, body, spirit, all this stuff works together. But yet we've been living for so long in that world of just, well, as long as you don't have a symptom, you must be healthy.
Yeah. And then especially when you talk about men, we don't like going to the doctor anyway. No. Until you get to 40, 45, or if it ain't broke, you ain't going to fix it. Until it's broke, you want to fix it. Men don't go to the doctor. And then they go to the doctor and then you have to pry the answers out of them. How's everything? I'm good. All right. See you next year. Your cholesterol is a little high. Watch what you eat. See you next year. That's usually the extent that a yearly visit that you do. I'm trained in primary care. So that's what I used to do with my patients. And I was like, no, there's way more than this. So to answer your question, right now in my functional medicine practice, when I see a patient and I do my consultation, I'll sit down first, because we don't take insurance, I have a lot more time with my patient. But I'll ask them, okay, how you doing physically? One, how you doing mentally? How you doing sexually? And how you doing spiritually? Those are the 4 components of wellness. Now I can guide, and with my patients, I'll tell them from 1 to 10, give me a number in each one of those. And my goal for my patients is not just for you not to be sick. It's for you to thrive. Because when you're at your best, the risk of chronic disease, the risk of mental health issues is much lower. One of my favorite sayings, I have a lot of Dr. Rudyism. When you feel better, you can be better. When you look better, you can be better. When I have my 6-pack, I kind of feel better and my mind is better, so I even can connect better. But if you're a man, you have chronic fatigue, you have anxiety, you have low mood, you have erectile dysfunction, you have low testosterone, low thyroid, it's hard to be the better version of yourself. So before you can elevate your brain and your energy, elevate your vibe, you need to be sure that your physical body is better. And as the MD, that's what I can do. I can really help your physical to be better. Once I fix your physical body, now I'm like, okay, let's go to the next level.
Yeah, I love that. And what one word sort of like rang true, and we've talked about it. I think we might even have it in our show description, but like the experience of going to a doctor for optimization versus treatment of issue. Like those are 2 different worlds.
2 different worlds.
It's like, and they both matter, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But forever we were sort of going to treat something. Oh, I've got this definitive thing with my health going on. But treating that doesn't make you your optimal self. It just takes care of the surface level problem, right?
Exactly. And I'm trained when I can do both. If you have a physical problem, I can help you with this. But the bigger question is, once that acute issue is gone, let's dig deeper.
Yeah, yeah. And
that's when we can really do some work.
I think I've determined that, I'm a marketing guy at heart, like more than anything. This is a passion business for Chris and I around all this. it's a languaging issue, I think, because I think like, you know, even biohacking has this sort of stigma to it. It's like, but when I hear like, yeah, it's like, it sounds like you're still breaking the law or something, like, oh, hacking it, you know, or biohacking, like, or you're being dangerous in it. When you know what I mean? And that's what's the real sad, this is the sad state that we were in that I feel like we're getting out of, and our show's trying to help do this is, you know, 10 years ago it was biohacking because, oh, how dare you break the standard of what you are to try to get to your most optimal healthy self. How dare you? You got to hack we got to call it hacking because that's how bad it is, you know?
Yeah.
Versus I want to be you said it, you simplified it.
Optimizing.
Yeah, it's optimized and be your best self. Like you can't be your best self if all I'm doing is treating problems. That means, think about a business. A business would never grow if all it did was treat problems, if it wasn't playing, it's playing offense versus defense, isn't it?
Completely. And it's planning ahead. So part of my practice, I'm a health, wellness, and longevity specialist. So what I'm planning, the conference I just went to in California, it was a longevity conference. And the plan is because modern science, modern medicine is advancing so much, and especially with AI, the discoveries that we're making year after year, it's mind-boggling. Within the next 5 to 10 years, we're pretty sure that we'll be able to achieve radical life extension and for people to be able to live to 120. So the conference I went to, that was the goal. How do we make humans live on average to 120? And they're developing technologies, medical technologies for that. And I'm sure we're going to get there. So it starts today. It's not after something happens. So you have to be proactive. You have to think long term. You have to be like, what's the best bang for my buck? So now medicine becomes almost like a banker can understand that. It's like compounding interest, right? The earlier you start saving, the earlier you start your good habits, the longer the reach you will have with this. I'm 54 years old now, you know, and every decade brings its own pain. There's a recent article that shows that we have 2 significant bursts of aging at the age of 44 and about 60. And there's no question for me it happened at about 47. At 47, although I was healthy, lifted weights, ate well, I hit a wall. I was like, man, is that what it means to feel old? What's going on? And that's when I put myself through my own program. I have my colleague who did my labs, look at everything. And I developed low testosterone at 47, 48. I started feeling at about 45. I was pushing through. And you know, that's another thing we need to talk about. The epidemic of low testosterone we're seeing in younger and younger men, despite being healthy and trying everything you could. So I had to put myself on testosterone and go through my program and really like fix my nutrition, my exercise, my sleep, optimize my hormones. And now at 54, I feel as good as in my 30s. And my goal is for the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years, I'm going to try my best, scratch my way to maintain this. And that's what I want for my patients.
Yep. What's up, guys? Ryan and Chris here. I want to talk to you about Apollo, our official partnership with the wearable. And look, we talk about it all the time. The research is out, guys. There's no hiding. Sleep is one of the most important things to your overall health and wellness, and that's why we love what we're seeing from Apollo. I'm using it. Chris has been an advocate for over 3 years. Talk about it, Chris. I know it's been helping with your sleep.
Yeah, man, I'm super stoked. The Apollo wearable device, I've been using this for 3 years. Anyone that knows me knows it's on my ankle or wrist all the time, including in my bed, which may seem a little odd that I sleep with this, but they've got all these different modes. Sleep mode kind of eases your body, eases your mind in that relaxed state. It helps you kind of calm that nervous system where you're hacking your brain in a way. But I'll tell you what, you can even set it on a schedule where it'll ease you into sleep. Then you can set it 6 a.m., 7 a.m. It'll gently wake you up. All of a sudden it's vibrating faster. It's pulsing faster. It's sending this frequency through your body, alerting your nervous system, time to wake up. So tons of uses. You can set it where it's easy to work for you. Set your schedule through the day, energy, social, sleep, calm, meditate, anything you want. There's a different mode for.
Look, ApolloNeuro.com, 15% off. Use Vibe Science, VIBE Science This is a great deal with a great partner that's leading innovations. You won't believe the data. You won't believe the results, just like Chris. We'll see you soon. I know, Chris, you've been to the doctor. I think we're going to talk a little bit about that, more of the psychedelic exposure. But again, I think it's just so important as we continue to highlight, these optimization techniques. Doc, before we transition to that, and I want Chris to talk about some of his experience, like, can you give our audience like you just mentioned the testosterone thing, which I think is huge. Guys, get your T tested. I mean, like, you got to. Tested. But there's some other like check boxes, like for people listening, men or women. I don't know if you, but just, I don't know, not the biohacking checklist, but the optimization checklist that you would tell people to go through.
Well, number one, your weight, right? Make sure that, and we don't believe in the BMI again, but body mass index, but keeping muscle mass and decreasing body fat, especially the visceral fat, that belly fat. So that's the number one thing. If you maintain good muscle mass, a good weight, and decrease body fat, that's one of the most important things you can do for longevity and wellness. Number two, your sleep. And if you don't track it, you won't know. So tracking your sleep and making sure you optimize your sleep. Number three, exercise, movement, making sure that you stay active, that you lift weights, you lift heavy things. Maintaining muscle mass is important. Then when you go now into more numbers, you want to be sure you check your blood pressure, because that has been associated, anything that's above the range, and ranges switch, right? And you want to check it at different times of the day. But if most of the times your blood pressure is on the upper limit of normal, you have a high risk of having heart disease or stroke, which is the number one killer in our society. Your cholesterol, you want to know what your cholesterol numbers are, but not just the surface cholesterol. We do a full panel looking at all your different subfractions of cholesterol and chronic inflammatory biomarkers to know what your risks are. Iron levels, really important to know if you care about longevity. So all of those things. So at our practice, when we do a blood test, we check 73 different biomarkers. So to answer your question, there's not one single thing we check. You do those things that you can check yourself. The mastering the basics are always nutrition, exercise, and sleep. Those are the three things you can do. Anybody can do on their own. Then you need numbers. Then you check your blood pressure, your cholesterol, your inflammatory biomarkers, then your hormones. Hormones, things like testosterone, your insulin resistance, your thyroid. All of those things are important biomarkers that you need to biohack and to really be the best version of yourself. But if you look at it, you go to your yearly physical exam with your primary care doctor, they don't check all those things. They'll check your blood pressure, your cholesterol, but not everything. So the people who are interested in this, what I like with biohacking, it's empowering the individual into taking care of their own health. You do your research, you follow people like me, like there's so many great doctors, great clinicians talking about this now. Educate yourself, find yourself somebody that you feel comfortable with, monitor your levels. If you don't check your blood, you just don't know what it is. Which one of us has a car that they never change their oils? They never change, do the diagnostic. They never put gas. The car would break down. We treat our body worse than we treat our car.
Yeah, amen on that. A lot of people that way.
Yeah.
I've gotten better about that, but I used to be one of those guys.
Yeah, for sure.
Got a fresh coat of wax on that thing, but damn, I had 3 cases of beer last night.
Car looks good though.
Yeah,
Car smelling nice.
Man, my head hurts. Oh, I love it.
And there's room to do both. There's room to do both. And when you're young, you can get away with a lot more.
Yeah.
After 30, 40 years old, you can't get away with the same stuff you used to.
No, it gets you.
And 50, forget it.
I will. The biggest thing I can stress to people, like, Doc just gave you a killer list, and it's just, and it hit me early. That was the one thing I probably did right. Like when I was like 27, I started going to an internal medicine, getting my blood work done like 3 times a year. If you are getting your blood work done regularly, like that's the easiest, like you gotta be like a good boss that I had like early growing up is like what gets measured gets met. And so if you are the moment, like I need to take a friend out that told me this when I was 27. He said, dude, you need to go to an internal medicine doctor. You need to get your blood checked. How do you know if you're well, if you aren't looking like it's your internal mark? You could look great, but you know, people die of heart. And I'm going to tell us, like, that makes sense. I'm going to that's all I needed to hear. I was like, I went to internal. So I've been going on that train for almost 20 years now. But if someone's listening, that's the first thing. Get your blood work. You got to know where you're at with all these measurements, right?
Completely. Nicely said, man. And to go further, nothing bad to say about internal medicine physicians, because I'm one. My specialty is internal medicine. But unfortunately, what gets covered by insurance is good, but it's not enough. They don't check testosterone level unless you ask for it.
Yep.
They don't check iron levels. Iron is something that I just discovered the past 3 years, that most of us are going to deal with iron toxicity. And let me ask you, have you ever had your iron levels or your ferritin levels checked that you know of?
I think I have a longevity doctor I work with now that I want to say it was on there. But I'm sitting here thinking that I remember that. I don't know for sure. I need to go look at my report.
Yeah. So, but my empowerment to each individual, you should know. My goal is to teach everybody to know yourself. I tell all of my patients, and everybody who wants to hear it, you need to become your own chief medical officer, right? If you have a company, you need to have somebody that it's your health. It's not the doctor's health. It's your health. So my patients at one point, they'll ask me, Doc, what's my LDL cholesterol? What's my BMI? What's my body fat percentage? What's my ferritin, which is the iron storage, because that's been associated with decreased longevity. So as an individual, to take ownership of your own health, you almost have to know as much, at least some medicine, because that is the most important thing that we can invest ourselves in. What else are you going to know that's going to be more important than your own health? So even when I do my consultation with my patient, I'll turn it around. I'll be like, okay, pull out your labs. You see this level? Ferritin. This is why I check it. You know this level? This is why I check it. So after a patient has done 2 or 3 consultations with me, now they're trained. They know what to look for. Because a lot of times patients will just tell you, they told me everything was fine. Then they bring me the numbers. I'm like, well, this is not fine. It may not have crossed the red line, but it's not optimized. You're at the lower limit of normal, or this, you're at the upper limit of normal. I want to optimize, and I train my patients a lot. As a biohacker, I want all of my patients to be well-versed in medicine, because the more you know, the more you can demand better.
It's simple, but like, I don't think people, I really want this to ring home. Back to that car analogy. How many guys or girls it may be something different, but the analogy for guys, we'll stick with that. They know the exact brand of that wax, what type of wheels, how many exact horsepower down to the horse their car has. They know what brand leather, what scent, what everything about that car. And then if you go, do you know what your blood work says? 9 out of 10 probably goes, no freaking clue. And like, how simple of like, but how sad for us. Like, and so chief medical officer, like your own CMO,
your
I
own
love that.
CMO.
That's what it is. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah,
oh,
and it takes a little effort. It takes, and you know what you guys are doing, what I'm trying to do, it's empowering patients. Because when you say that, some people are like, ooh, that's interesting. And they'll take the first small step. Then they'll go a little further with it. And that's what we need. Now, let's picture, guys, let's picture a world where most people are biohackers. Most people know as much what they know about their car, about themselves, and they take positive actions to change that. Imagine that world we'd live in.
A lot healthier.
And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to segue into psychedelics with this.
Yes.
Because what I've realized a lot of times, when somebody does a good psychedelic session and you have what we call a mystical experience, where you experience oneness, you experience you one with the universe, it opens things in you where you're so much more open. You want to know so much more. You feel connected to earth. You feel like your body is now the vessel, the temple. So you care about your body and the planet more. So for all those people, Chris, who are talking about this, you got some funny looks from people when they see that you posted on ketamine. These are drugs. These are, like not the good things. I'm not going to say that there's not possibility of side effects or addiction with this, like everything we do in life. But if you take the positive out of it, most of my patients that I see that do a really good psychedelic session with the right set and setting, the right guide, it opens themselves to respect their body more and respect their planet more and respect everybody, because we are all one.
Yeah. Amen to that. It's still back to me. I'm a very I'm practical more than I'm conservative in a lot of ways, but liberal in others because I'm willing to try things. And it's like, sometimes it's just practicality of like, okay, I'm not one to just do or believe it. It's not always that way. It's always that way till you learn something better and different. And the time with which it's taken for these stigmas and these things, and again, back to your perspective as a medical, doctor, like why it's taken so long and why there still exists these stigmas for things that are so obviously helping and impacting people, it just blows the mind. And I don't know if it's as simple as 65-year-old politicians that have always known the same way, that are keeping it the same way. I don't know if it's the pharmaceutical companies holding it all back because they can't make the money on. Maybe it's yes. I don't know. But why are we seemingly still in this world where it's so stigmatized?
Yeah, and it's yes. And it's called a reference bias. And it's a human nature thing. Humans will always try to look for things they know already and validate their knowledge. It's hard for a human to open themselves to a new knowledge. And MDs are the worst at this. Sometimes the more you know, the more you think you know everything. And what I've realized is the opposite. And Socrates said that. The more you know, you realize you don't know. So keeping a don't know type of mindset is the best thing that has helped me get out of my box of conventional medicine. And when you talk about why are we having this, politicians, activists, doctors, it's the human mind. The human mind likes to stay in a box. What I know is what I know. I'm going to read things to reinforce my bias, and I'm going to stay in my one little box. So we tend to have the reductionistic thinking. We like to reduce everything into good or bad, and then we take one position and we spend most of our lives defending that position. The best thing that could happen on our planet is that we start to understand we don't know everything, have an open mind, be tolerant, be willing to try things, and even change your mind if you see that this thing works. And again, I'm going back to psychedelics, because what tends to get you to have such an open mind is when you do a good psychedelic session and you experience what is called a mystical experience. Mystical experience has nothing to do with mystics, anything dark. Mystical experience is when you do, and that can happen with meditation, with breath work, with prayer, anything like this, that you feel connected to the universe. You feel connected to God, to the greater mystery, whatever name you want to do it. But that feeling of oneness, of unity, of interconnectedness, we're all connected. When you feel that, you're a different human being.
Yeah. Chris, I've dominated the discussion here because I'm always, especially having, someone as versed and as educated and as smart as Dr. Rudy, I'm always wanting to steal the thunder. Like, how much knowledge can I get from him? Explain to me, doctor. I want to know these things. And you've done an elegant job of it. Chris, I know you've had experience with Dr. Rudy. Love for you to chime in here with, your experience and all that stuff.
Yeah. No, you're doing a great job, Ryan. I think it's good because I think you can speak on this from like probably a pretty more, I would say the more common belief system, right? The non-psychedelic people that haven't tried it or haven't, maybe done in this type of situation. But, I look at myself kind of like Dr. Rudy described. Like physically, I was in good shape, been, you know, pretty healthy for a while now, starting to kind of do the inner work. Heard about ketamine a long time. Actually, I heard about it at my cousin's wedding from someone else who had some addiction history, and actually the ketamine had helped him. But that was kind of where the seed was planted for me. I want to say like 3 years ago. And then the plant medicines had opened my world up to the psychedelics. And Dr. Rudy's right. I mean, it's so hard to describe, and I wish there wasn't such fear around it. And myself have been fearful. But it's such a powerful experience where I felt like I'd kind of dialed in on everything I could dial in on in my power. And the psychedelics, you know, my ketamine experience gives you that extra little nudge that gets you on the other side. But I definitely experienced, you know, it was a very comfortable experience. I had that connectedness, that oneness, that unity. And psychedelics did change me. Ever since I've done them, I've opened up a lot more. I'm a lot less judgmental, I feel. And like Doctor said, I'm a lot more open to new ideas. It's like you open a box and all of a sudden you're curious because you realize there's so much more than what we even understand. So I'm a huge advocate for psychedelics, as our listeners probably know. But I think what Dr. Rudy's doing in the ketamine clinic settings is a really amazing thing, because I understand the majority of people probably aren't going to go fly to an Amazon, you know, rainforest
And do ayahuasca.
and do ayahuasca, right? That's a lot to ask for, you know, I have a friend, he's married, he has 2 kids, and he has some PTSD he's trying to work through. Your average person can't go, you know, fly out to Costa Rica or Peru for 7 days for $10,000, right? So I think what these clinics can do, I think, is really amazing. And I'm a firm believer that if we could get everyone, you know, as many people as possible to have an experience like this and just that connectedness again, I think the world would change in a very rapid and amazing way, honestly.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that, Chris. And it's amazing what I was trying to put into words. You said it beautifully. And when you do experience that, and you're lucky enough that you do a psychedelic experience and you experience that oneness, it's hard to put it into words. You have to experience it. And again, I'm not advocating that everybody should go and do this. Really, there's people who get this through meditation. And they've done functional MRI of the brain of very experienced meditators, and it shows that it's the same areas of the brain that get lit up with psychedelics. You can do holotropic breath work. I tried those things. I could not. So I had a really bad trauma happen in my life, and I could not get past it. I had a 6-pack. I was physically at the top of my shape, but I was living in victimhood. I was living in why me? I was living in scarcity, not abundance. And I've never done drugs in my life. And when I did my psychedelic experience, my first one, I traveled out of the country, which not everybody can. And I did a psychedelic experience. And I went from an agnostic, almost an atheist, to a deeply spiritual person who's so much more can connect to people. Me and you that day, we connected so close, Chris, because again, we're all in that receptive zone after you do psychedelic. You know, John Lennon said it. All you need is love. It's love with a capital L. And the way to experience that, find a way to tap into this. Whether you pray, but not superficial praying. Whether you meditate, not superficial. Go deep, go inner, go into your inner world, and you'll see how much opens up for you. And that said, I want to make sure we talk that ketamine, we have to be careful with it, because we all know what just happened to Matthew Perry and what a sad situation, and that we know some people who are addicted to ketamine. So there is a possibility of addiction. That's what at our clinic at TriStar Medical, we do only IV. So you are surrounded by medical team. We make the room not a medical looking room. It's very warm and it invites. We do a meditation before you start this. So we do a lot of setting to make sure that people don't fall into the addiction. And we use it in specific instances for a specific goal. So ketamine, S-ketamine, has now been FDA approved for depression, anxiety, addiction, and suicidal ideation. So those are in the areas you can use. There's a nasal spray also that you can use. That's the one that's FDA approved. But when done for the right person, with the right setting, with the right intention, it can really be life transforming.
Yeah. A couple things have, like, I don't know, crystallized for me hearing you talk, Doctor, and Chris talk. back to the whole like the box thing. And I think about even like our logo, like with Vibe Science, like this, like behind me, we have the spark. And it's because, and the whole notion of vibes, not to be woo-woo, it's because it can't live in this box. Like back to like the medical doctor, when I think of the structure, we want everything to be structured. One side or the other, black, white, structure, boxes, everything in it, because it's clean, right? When everything is as complex, though, as our body and our minds and our spirits and our energy and all that, it can't be put in the box. And I think that's what a lot of what we're saying here, combined with, I love the part about being like, we're taught that, you know, it's better to give than to receive. But sometimes you got to be ready to receive. And it's sort of like listening. Like listening is receiving. And we're so prone to want to speak first, to sort of give opinion first, to put out first, instead of being in this receptive zone of other ideas or new information that challenges what we've always believed. Yeah. And that's really interesting to me.
Yeah. And again, I'm going back to the reductive thinking that humans tend to have a lot. We like to, as you said, as a lot of people, they are listening to somebody just they can answer back. They're not even really receiving what's being said.
No.
So we tend to have a little ideas, you know, all the ism, racism, sexism, ageism, all the ism you can think about. It's a small thinking. Expand your mind, expand your energy, get bigger than that little thinking that you have. And what can expand your mind? So the definition of psychedelics, right? Psyche in Greek means the mind. Delia means to reveal or to manifest. So psychedelics, the word means mind revealing, mind manifesting. When do we ever peek into our inner world, into our mind? Never. Right? When do we sit down as buddies? Do you be, hey, Chris, how's your spirituality? How's your inner world? Do we ever do this? Never. And that's the most important part of being human. It's that non-physical part. We're really good at taking care of the physical. We need to start paying more attention to the non-physical. I think this is the solution for every ill of our planet. The time that we as humans connect into a higher level, we're not ready for that at all. But I believe in changing the individual, because each individual that changes himself or herself, it helps the collective. So we need to do the work as one so that the collective can hopefully one day change. And I'm optimistic that it will change.
Yes. And we'll be right here with you, Doc. Carrying the flag and pushing it forward.
Getting that spark and spreading that spark.
That's right. Any final thoughts here, Chris? And I definitely want to give Dr. Rudy a chance to tell people where to keep up with him and all that stuff. Any other thoughts, Chris?
I just do your research, people. You know what I mean? I mean, I researched psychedelics for a long time. It was never something that appealed to me. I was ignorant, and I was even in healthcare. You know, I own a medical laboratory even to this day, and I was completely ignorant. Literally, a lot of what we do is drug testing, and it completely changed my world for the better. My life is in a better place than it's ever been. My mind is in a better place than it's ever been. So I just, like was said, open your mind, be open to learn new things, be open to explore, just be open to receive it, even receive the information, whether you agree with it or not. Just, we got to try new things.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Because the old ways ain't getting it done. So, Doc, where can everybody keep up with what you're doing, your practice, everything?
Definitely. So my social media, it's Dr. Rudy Best Life, DRRUDY Best Life, because what I'm trying to do is help you live your best life. And our website for our clinic is Medical Health Institute, and our ketamine clinic is TriStar Wellness. So www.tristarwellness.com. So you can look at me in all of those things. And the last word I want to leave your listeners to, it's the most important thing we talked about today is we're trying to empower each individual into learning about your own health, becoming your own chief medical officer. Treat your body like you would treat your car. Learn about it. Ask questions. Educate yourself. If you go to your primary care doctor, don't just take their answers for it. Ask questions. But doctor, why? I looked this up. When actually patients come and they're like, they Googled something, most doctors don't like that. I like that because it shows me that you're interested in your own healthcare. And if you're wrong, I'll kind of steer you in the right direction. But I need people ask questions. When you ask questions, you get better answers.
Bingo. Q&A. Got to ask the right questions, just like ChatGPT. You got to know the questions to ask. Doctor, we really appreciate your insight, your perspective, and your wisdom here on the show today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be with like-minded individuals. It's when I talk to people like you that I remain optimistic on what we can do in the future.
Totally agree. We appreciate everyone for listening. Remember, optimal health is never a destination. It's a continuous personal journey. We're here to be your guides. We'll see you next time on Vibe Science.
The content discussed on this show is provided for reference and educational purposes. The content is not an attempt to practice medicine or provide specific medical advice. Always consult your personal physician for medical advice and proper diagnosis.
Thanks for listening. This is Vibe Science. To learn more or watch full episodes, visit vibesciencepodcast.com. Here's to discovering your highest vibe